Good evening, everyone. So good to see so many of you here. I wanted to, of course, in my introduction, I forgot to mention I got blessed this February. This is my beautiful wife, Daniela. Maybe we can all wave to her. This is also so I make sure that all of you are listening. At least half of you are listening. That's good. That's good. I'll take it. I'll take it. Thank you. Um, she has her, she's writing her master's thesis right now, so she has to go back to that. Thank you. I loved that Hunuke. That was actually great. I feel like we could have just continued reading that speech, and that would have been perfectly fine for tonight. There were actually a lot of the things that your father touched on, a few things that I wanted to talk on tonight as well, which is giving me some. That feels good, right? When True Father says the things that you want to say, that gives what you're saying some merit. Um, So yes, um, I want to say that I'm very humbled to sit here and speak in front of you. I see that there are many of our veterans here tonight. Thank you, everyone, also for turning on your videos. I can see you. Um, I really do not have the witnessing experience that many of you do, right? I wanna acknowledge that, and I wanna acknowledge that many of you build the communities and build the different faith groups that we have in Europe. That now I have the privilege of working for. So I'm in deep gratitude to all of you. Um, so I want to start with that. And I also want to share that, um, of course, I am young and I am new to witnessing compared to all of you, to a lot of you. And so I'm going to share my experience. And I hope if you can gain anything from that, that is amazing. If not, then, I apologize, but I hope you can gain something. So I wanted to share my screen. Let's see here. Can you see my screen? Can I get some thumbs up? Very good. Very good. So, I wanted to share from my perspective on witnessing. And so, with that, of course, my testimony or my sharing tonight is based on myself, right? So, witnessing starts with yourself. And so quickly, I wanted to share some pictures from my testimony that our older brother Artem here shared. So this is my community. These are all the young second gen in my Swedish community. And this picture was taken many, many years ago. So you can see me there with my twin brother in the very middle of the picture. I'm not sure if you see my mouse, but that's me and that's my twin brother. And this is all the second gen from Sweden. This is my a picture from we went to Korea with my SDF year, and you see me here under the hand here. So very grateful for this brother who covered me. And this is Vlora, where I spend a lot of time witnessing. I have one spiritual son that was from there, who later went to receive the blessing. And I'm right over here. And I went back there again the previous year. This is my second year. You can see me over here. And this is was my core team when I became national leader. I'm very much about working together. So that's some pictures to add to the little testimony or introduction from Artem, and now to get down to the real business, to the real interesting things. I think pictures can only say so much. So the first thing I want to talk about with all of you is ownership. So, as I shared, witnessing starts with yourself. And I think what we did very well as a movement in the earlier years, and all of you veterans out there are you're welcome to correct me, you know. But my impression from my parents and the uncle and aunties in my community is that they really took a lot of ownership. The providence became theirs. They gave up their lives. They stopped. Some even dropped out of university. I know there's one auntie. She had I think 3 or 4 weeks left of her university of getting her master's when she dropped out of school to serve the providence, right? So this is very much the spirit of the early days. I found that this has been the most crucial thing in my life of faith, in witnessing or otherwise. And so without ownership, you cannot really succeed. So I have a quote from our dear True Father. So although the desire of each individual is to enjoy the highest ownership, the power of selfish love is always bringing division rather than unity and harmony. Under those circumstances, can we ever obtain the highest ownership? The whole problem of the world can be boiled down to each individual, the self. That oneself is the battleground where each of us must obtain victory. So, let's talk about that a little bit. So, um, ownership. Um, I found that in my community, um, it doesn't come as an obvious thing to take ownership. It doesn't come as an obvious thing when you're in a program. In SDF, for example, or if you're a missionary, you're very much told what to do. The desires don't always come from yourself. And so that internal reflection and those internal feelings really have to come before you do anything else. Um, so let me share my screen again. So I'm sure you are familiar with the Four Position Foundation. I like to share this one um, because sometimes I found that we forget really about um, how things work in the universe. Um, and these lectures I usually give to younger members. Note, I see that there are many wiser members here tonight, so bear with me. But when it comes to witnessing, when it comes to community building, when it comes to anything, I was speaking to we have to have mind body unity to become an ideal person. I was speaking to a missionary. We've had three missionary teams within the past year in Sweden. And many times I speak to them. We have sharings. And there's one brother, he couldn't fundraise, right? He had some issues. So he stopped fundraising for the day. And then the next day he called me and he was telling me why he couldn't fundraise. Essentially, he was giving me excuses, right? He was saying, I couldn't fundraise because I felt like this and I felt like that. And we decided to do blitzing in the evening, and that made me struggle. And I, you can of course validate all of those feelings. You can validate how someone's feeling. However, I broke it down to him and I said, the reality is that you have fear in your soul. There's something that is blocking you, and there's something that's blocking your original mind. There's something that makes you not be the person that you essentially need to be, that beautiful individual that God created. Um, and this is something that holds us back a lot. I was in my second year of SDF when I remember I looked myself in the mirror one time, and I was trying to understand why I was so afraid of witnessing and why I was so afraid of fundraising. And by looking in the mirror, looking myself in the eyes, I could see the true value that I perhaps had, right? The true value that I most definitely had. I was seeing not just myself, but I was seeing my parents. I was seeing my grandparents and my great grandparents. I was seeing all of these people came down as like an upside down pyramid to create who I am right here. And I have the audacity to be afraid. And so many times it's not just about being selfless. It's not just about living for the sake of others, but it's confronting the things that keeps us from being our original self. If we cannot be our original self, right? If our mind and body are not united, we cannot create that original mind within ourselves, then God cannot work through us. And if we don't have God in the picture, we will not have mind body unity, and we will not have an ideal family, and we will not have an ideal world, right? Essentially, this is what the three great blessings are. I like to say, without, sometimes I remove the second one, man and woman, and I add community there instead. Only by having ideal people can we have an ideal community, right? And so many times I have to look around my community. I have to look around, and I have to ask myself, right? Of course, I ask myself, am I an ideal person? Right. If I'm an ideal person, okay, then I'm ready to start having an ideal family. I'm ready to have an ideal community. However, it takes a group of people to have an ideal community. Um, it was in True Father's speech, right? Don't People don't want to go where communities are in decline. Witness with love, right? This was the English translation. I didn't open it up, the actual Hundoke, but I think the translation was accurate. Is that correct, Artem? Can you give me a thumbs up? Yes, Artem approves. Very good. So, and I found that very much the case. All my life, we have not had new members for a really long time in Sweden, right? And if we did have members, if we did have guests, they were not always taken care of, right? And so when you have mind unity, it's not just that you are a happy person, but essentially you're attached to your original mind and you are attached to God. And that will help you see beyond yourself. However, it starts with yourself. So, very basic here. Next is laying the right foundation leads to the right conditions for the future. I want to take a quotation here from Jordan Peterson, a psychologist from Canada. So Jordan Peterson teaches us, you must determine where you are going in your life, because you cannot get there unless you move in that direction. Random wandering will not move you forward. It will instead disappoint and frustrate you and make you anxious and unhappy and hard to get along with, and then resentful, and then vengeful, and then worse. Wow. Very, very powerful. So, what I've experienced a lot is that in moments in my life, in reflection, when I look back in my life, and because we all experience at some point that we have mind body unity. And those moments are really absolute, like, it's not just joy, but it's like an energy that just flows everywhere. It's incredible. It's just such a feeling. It's indescribable. Like, some people describe it as floating in the air, right? I've heard that many times. Some people describe it as, loving everything and everyone. And some people just go out they cannot sit still. They go out running. We've all had those moments. Essentially, we don't unfortunately have the mind body unity every time, all the time, right? There are moments in our lives that we tap into that energy that God has. And those moments, I know each one of you who has experienced this have some kind of inspiration. In those moments, early in the morning, and do Hundoke every day, you should take cold showers. You should do this program. You should do that. You should give more Sunday services. You should witness to your family members, to your friends. All these inspirations coming down to you, and you feel, and they all make so much sense in that moment. Everything you feel is correct. And that's if you find yourself with a vision in your life, you know, and if that vision is good and it's true, you know that you have some part of you has connected to God and your parents. And so try to remember these visions. They're very important, because then when you do decide to go out witnessing, you need to have this vision. I'm always a little bit surprised because we received these 3 witnessing teams in Sweden, and I'm asked them, why are you here? And a lot of them, The Korean and the Japanese missionaries, they say, "Oh, we're here for God and true parents," right? That's they're we here to witness, right? This is what they say. And I asked them, "Well, what do you really feel? Is that did God tell you that, right? Is that your original mind speaking, or did someone tell you that's why you're doing this, right?" It's a beautiful answer. It's a beautiful answer. However, um, it has to be from ourselves, right? So I asked them, but what do you really want to achieve, right? Whilst I've also had European and American missionaries, and they straight up didn't know. I said, what's your vision here? Now you're here in Sweden. You're here for 5 months. What is it you want to achieve? Oh, I want to make some friends. You want to make some friends? Well, you can do that anywhere, right? Um, we heard. I listened to the testimony from Vitali, I think it was, and he said they witnessed in Moscow, and they managed to they witnessed to 100 people, and 50 of them they treated as friends, right? And 50 of them came to all their events, but then after the condition, none of them stayed, right? Because essentially, you're not here to make. When you do witnessing, you're not there to make friends, and this can sound harsh. Of course, you can make friends, but you have to remember why you are doing what you are doing. You have to remember that you are standing here as a representative of true parents, as a representative of your community, right? So when you have that mind body unity, when you have that vision, only then can you go forward, right? You have to understand your purpose, right? And I found this extremely important, not just in witnessing, in community building, and my work and my life with my wife. We remind ourselves a lot, what is it I want to achieve in this life? And then we fight for that. Because once you have a vision, you also have to take responsibility for that. And there comes back the ownership. All right. So you need to project what you want to the universe. This is me fundraising. Back in my first year, I was a very good fundraiser. I did quite okay. Why is that? Because unknowingly, I actually always projected what I wanted. And many times, what I wanted was not to sell cards, which I have in my hands. Many times, it was to receive gifts. Many times, I wanted to receive Coca-Cola from people. I wanted to receive food from people. I wanted to receive, I was in Switzerland, so I wanted to receive watches and Swiss knives. And frankly, I got all of those things because those were the things that I truly, truly asked for. So, when you have mind body unity and you have a vision, right? You can connect those two and you can ask God. You can have that conversation with God. Not only will you feel great having that conversation with God, but also you will find that all of those things manifest themselves. I have countless experiences in my life when I prayed about something and then, weeks later I have an answer, and then only reflecting back is, oh, I actually got an answer for that question, right? And so project what you want. So if you want to have spiritual children, if you want to have guests, right? And here, really, I am humbled by all of you sitting here because I believe that most of the people in this chat have more spiritual children than I do and have much, much more experience. So again, I'm humbled that you're willing to listen to me, to hear this, because surely all of you have practiced this. So project what you want to the universe. So I am national leader of Sweden, and this is our vision for this year. So you can see here, there's True Mother's vision is witness to a third of the population. The national vision is expand and embracing community through spirit and truth. And I'll come back to spirit and truth. Remember those two words. They're very beautiful. And the goal statement is practice a culture of growth and ownership by the end of 2024. Okay, so it's not just for yourself. Remember the four position foundation. It starts with yourself, then it goes to the community. I find that many communities, I've visited many communities, and I asked the community leader or the members, what's the vision for your community? And they don't know, right? We've been spoiled for many, 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 many years, where True Father gave us many visions and many goals, and we had to follow those very detailed, right? True Mother's giving us a lot more ownership. So, but with that ownership also comes responsibility to make those visions. Now, if you ask some of my members in my community, probably a lot of them wouldn't be able to quote this vision either, right? I assure you. But the point is, there needs to be a vision. You have to have a vision. This is the broader vision. See, we have goals for everything, right? Goals: create the right environment for members, both current and new. We have witnessing, Sunday service, Sunday school. We have our different outreach programs, structure, surroundings, uphold vertical alignment. These are things that we align ourselves with to have a successful community. So I want to ask each one of you, why do we do conditions? And you're all muted, and I'm sure you're all screaming out the answer, so I'll say it instead. We do conditions because we have a goal in mind. I want to do good on my exam, so my condition is I will study for 40 days, 40 minutes every day, and hopefully I will reach a good result. Another is, of course, I want to have many spiritual children. I want to have 3 spiritual children by the end of 2024. So I will do 100K every day in the morning for 21 minutes. Right, something like this. We're very good at doing conditions. We usually, I don't know how you do it in your communities. When I was on SDF, we wrote down the condition, the time period. We made it very clear, central figure, author up to my central figure. Do you approve of this condition? Yes, right. And so then I did it. And conditions work tremendously. We're really good at it, right? And why I mention conditions is because conditions are the same thing as a vision. However, a vision is much greater, a much grander, right? So please think what you want from your life 1 year from now, 5 years from now. Just doing 40-day conditions is not enough. And again, I'm sure a lot of you are doing this already. Then take this moment and feel good that you feel the same as me. Reinforce that feeling. Aju. All right, let's move on. So I mentioned spirit and truth. Ooh, this was in the vision. And True Mother also speaks about spirit and truth. And in the Bible, what does it say? Spirit represents God, and truth, I suppose, is the Bible itself. You all know the Bible better than I do. I grew up with the divine principle, right? The only Bible passages I know are in the divine principle. So, spirit and truth. Why is this important? True Father in the Hundoke, very beautiful Hundoke, was saying that, you have to know how to treat the different guests. And, he was saying the positive and the negative members, right? And you have to know how to treat each member differently depending on the situation, right? This is spirit, I find. Now, you're all welcome to correct me here, right? I welcome that. However, I have internalized this, and this is how I interpret this. So, this is spirit, meaning to have God in our lives, to love people correctly. Many times I've had sharings with members or missionaries or this or that, and they tell me something. And if I truly love this person, right, I can give this person the care and the love that they need. So it takes true love. And true love, to go back to mind body unity, we have to have mind body unity all the time, not just when we're praying, not just when we do conditions. Mind and body unity is hard work. Every moment of the day, we have to love every person we meet, right? That's essentially the original mind. That's essentially true parents. They love everyone as their children. Incredible, right? We have to be like that as well. So when we meet our community members, when we meet guests, we have to love them enough to know what to tell them. I don't know how many members have told me, I wanted to do this, but my central figure, this or that. My community leader, this or that. My national leader, this or that, right? Because maybe in that moment, and here I'm in myself in a central leader, so I can say these things. I feel it's okay for me to say, maybe in that moment, your central figure did not have that love to give you, and they said things that perhaps hurt you instead of helped you, right? So why am I telling you this? Not for you to have resentment towards your central figures, right? I saw that there's some Swedish members here. Please don't hate your central figure. Love your central figure, right? But instead, when you are the central figure, try, make sure to love who you are speaking to. Do you know the situation? Have you asked them how they are doing? I was surprised to go to a community. I was in South Africa, and I gave a testimony and a little speech to the young second gen there and the young members. And I asked them. We were a group of 35 people, so I couldn't really speak to all of them. But I said, please tell me your goals in your life. And then a lot of them said, oh, I want to become this. I want to become an actor, or I want to create music, or I want to become a doctor, and all these things. And after this, they all went outside, and I was listening to their conversation and was saying, oh, I didn't know you wanted to be that. That's so inspiring. That's incredible, right? Please don't forget to talk to each other, ask each other how you are doing, care for each other, love each other. When you go to Sunday service, do you ask people how they're doing? Right? Do you ask them, how are you? Good. How are you? Great. Okay. Thank you. Right? That's not good enough. Try to understand each other. Right? And this is all of those of you who have done witnessing knows that you are so interested in your guest, right? When you do have a guest, you're so interested in this person, right? However, that is a community effort. And you know that when you are interested, they feel loved, right? As your father was sharing, we have to witness with love. And then there's the truth, right? We have to learn truth. We have to go through hardships. We have to experience things, right? If we don't have the experience, then we cannot help them. I'm so sorry to so many of the older, wiser members in my community. They're in their 50s and 60s and 70s because I can't always give them the advice that they need. Oh, most of the time I cannot give them the advice that they need, but I can listen and love them. However, the younger members in my community, because I have truth in my life, because I've experienced things, and because I love them, there's usually something I can tell them, and there's truth, right? So when you do witness, you have to study the divine principle. You have to experience things. You have to conquer your fears. When you learn to conquer your fears, when you ask yourself, why is it difficult to go out fundraising? Right? We have to ask ourselves, why am I afraid? What is it I'm afraid of? When we overcome these difficulties, we can then share those experiences with others, and they might help someone else in the future. So I was asked to share some spiritual experience about witnessing. This is one of the things that Artem asked of me. So when I was in my first year of SDF, I had just come to Vlora, beautiful city. I met this young man to the left there in the pink shirt. He was one of the first people I met, and I met him on the street witnessing. And I brought him to the center, and he loved it. He loved everything we did. He was so inspired. And then we went to Korea for 2 weeks. As I shared in one of the first pictures, we went to Korea, and I was so worried. I loved him so much. And I was so worried about him and my other guests. I was making conditions. I think it was him and 2 other brothers. I was praying for them every day. Every day I was doing conditions for them. Absolute, just crying so that they could not leave by the time I came back. I was so afraid. And it was so interesting. Only 1 year I come back and he's very inspired. He's so happy, right? And he looks at me and he says, I was so happy. I woke up every day with a smile on my face. He said, I felt so good while you were gone. And I knew, in my heart, wow, my condition worked. Right? My prayers reached out to him. And so then, actually, only 1 year later, when he became a member, I came back and I met him. I actually asked to go back to Florida just so I could spend time with him. We were sitting in an ice cream shop and we were having ice cream. And I told him, I can tell you this now, but last year, when I went to Korea, I prayed for you every day, and you told me that you felt good every day. I told him this experience, and he said, I knew it was you, right? I knew you were doing something for me, right? And so this brother he's quite spiritually open, right? So he could feel that. And I feel very blessed to have him as a spiritual son. He later received the blessing. And so, please, and now we're hearing stories from this Chongshimon prayers, how these second gen from Korea are returning to the church through these prayers. This devotion is real. Please pray for your guest. Please pray for the people around you. It's very precious. And the brother in the middle there is his spiritual son, right? And he in turn had also another spiritual son who also received the blessing. So I was a spiritual grandchild, something like that, right? This is incredible. Within 2 years or something like this, right? Very precious. So next is integrity. Integrity. Now, okay, we've learned that. We've learned we need to have a vision. We learned we need to pray. We need to connect with God. We need to do all these things. Now, okay, I have grown up in this community. Beautiful community. We have all these values. We want to save the world, right? So, I've, however, found many times we don't always practice what we preach. And yes, our values are essentially you need to become a perfect person. Okay, so I understand it's difficult, but we need to live with integrity. This is one of my favorite words. It's like I have a lot of buzzwords here tonight. I'm not sure if you can translate buzzword into Russian. I wish you good luck to the translator. But integrity is so essential when you go on living your life. The values that you teach. If you don't have integrity, your guests will feel that. They will feel if you lie to them, if you tell them something that you don't think is true, they feel that. We all believe in energies. We all believe we have spirits, right? So if we believe that, then if you tell a lie, if you don't speak the truth, if you don't live the actions you say, the energies will be off. The spirit world will be off. You will not have what you need to have when you do witnessing. Okay. So, and one thing I found very, very amazing with working with God is that God will always want to work with you. And so this is maybe a warning, actually. Because the moment God has a taste of what you can do, he will never let you go. He will never allow you to stray off the path. He will never allow you to waste your time. Because once you've developed a certain consciousness, once you've developed a certain relationship to God, he wants to use you, and you will be used by God. And that's, I know use is maybe sounds like a derogatory word or negative word, but essentially when it's used with God, you want to be used. You want to be God's tool. You want to be God's energy and God's love working with others. So, yes. So, witnessing. There are 2 more points I want to make. Only yesterday I was speaking to Naomi. She's one of the missionary leaders for GPA in America, and she was telling me we're talking about witnessing and we're talking about communities, and she was saying that Dr. Sok is a Tongil Mudo instructor in the US or Tongil Mudo master or something. Maybe some of you know him. He said that once we stop witnessing, our communities will be in decline. Our communities will not live, and I think that's very true. And so I'm so grateful to see that so many members are here tonight and are interested in learning about witnessing, because essentially our soul as a communities, as True Parents Heavenly Community will not live on unless we do witnessing. Dr. Young, I also listened to some of his, he was the continental leader for North America. He shared that if you do not witness, you do not understand God's heart. because God's heart wants to reach out to everyone. God's heart really wants us to all get to know true parents, and wants to all of us to know God's love. So if you are not sharing God's love, you really have to think, reevaluate your life. And I mean this not in a criticizing way, but reevaluate, you know, are you witnessing today? I like to ask second gen, are you asking your friends to come to church? And most of them say no. As young members, are you bringing your friends to church? Well, if you're not willing to bring your friends to church, well, then you're not willing to do real witnessing, because your friends are the people that you love. They're like the extended family that you have. So, and then you also have to ask yourself, would you bring your friend to church, to Sunday service? If you wouldn't, then I have to ask you, then why have Sunday service? Why wouldn't you bring someone to Sunday service? It should be the most inspiring, amazing place on earth. It should be where you worship and honor God and your parents. If you find yourself that your Sunday service is not that, then there's a conversation you have to have in your community. All right. I think that's plenty. I'm so grateful that I've had this opportunity to speak all of you. And thank you. Sincerely. Thank you.